Season X's introduction of the mech may very well be one of the few but easily biggest mistakes in the timeline of this game. The community was already feeling the full impact of having Playground as a mode, which meant that the ceiling and the floor was beginning to widen and widen because some kids were spending all day in Playground just getting better. You see, before Playground, or what you now know as Creative or UEFN, there was a time where the only way you could practice was by playing the actual game. That's what was so beautiful about Battle Royales, especially games like Fortnite, because they didn't have a side multiplayer like Warzone did, where you could keep practicing. You had to play the game to be better at the game, which meant to get better, you had to push anyone, anywhere, anytime. But it was still super time consuming because you had to land, find mats, get your weapons, and then find people, because this was a time before cars and shockwaves and all the great grapplers we know of. But when Playground dropped, you could just hop into that mode and practice as much as you want. And naturally, in response to this, so many players were beginning to leave Fortnite, because why would you play a game you had no chance at ever winning? So when they decided to add a mech that was virtually unstoppable, the game for the first time felt actually unplayable. You either ran into someone who sucked at the game who was using a mech, or you ran into a team who was super cracked who wasn't using the mech because they hated them so much. For many, this was a miserable time. Almost as miserable as that time when there was no water, no boats, and no cars there in Chapter 2, which we'll talk about in another video. It was most definitely this massive migration away from their game that made Epic Studios most likely start considering options to bring people back, and it's probably where the beginning of Zero Build came from. And the numbers on this can never be verified because this was before they were tracked, but I have no doubt that over 50% of that player base ended up leaving Fortnite, because